Hi, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So today I come to you with my January wrap up, and it's not quite the end of January yet today. I believe I actually don't even know. Is it January 28th, excuse me. So I do have a few reading days left, but I think for the most part, I know how the month is gonna finish out. So I figured, why not get my filming done today? I'm also experimenting a little bit with lighting today, so if things look a little bit different, that's why. But it is what it is, and we will just make it work. So January has actually been a really good reading month for me, and I was able to get through, let me just see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It'll be between 10 and 11 books this month, which is absolutely amazing. Winter break helped a little bit, but not quite, because there was only like 1 or 2 days of January and winter break. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first book I finished in January was Ellen Hilderbrand's Troubles in Paradise. This is the third book in the Winter in Paradise series that I already talked about, excuse me, in my December wrap up. I read the first 2 of these and I quite enjoyed them. I don't want to say too much about this one because it continues that series, but I did. I really enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4, just like good, standard, like tropical romance, which I like. So that was that one. The next one that I picked up was actually an audiobook. I picked up the audiobook and I picked up the actual physical hard copy from one of my school libraries. And this was a book that was recommended by Amanda at the Curly Reader. And that was When the World Was Ours. And of course, I can't remember the author. I should have wrote it down, but is it Liz Kessler? Possibly. I really enjoyed this one. It's a World War II story told from 3 different perspectives. They're all, at the start of the book, it's 2 boys and a girl. They're all 12 and they are friends. 2 of the characters are Jewish and 1 is not. And I guess the best way that I can describe it is they're very close growing up, and then, you know, things around Nazis and versus Jews start happening. The 2 that are Jewish have very different timelines. 1 is able to kind of get out of, I believe, I can't remember if they were in Poland or not, but 1 was able to get out and they go to Britain, and you get that side of the story. 1 ends up on a very difficult path, and then actually the other friend is a son of an SS soldier. So I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was a fantastic World War II middle grade YA fiction book, and I gave this one 5 stars. I am so happy I picked it up after hearing Amanda rave about it. So the third book that I picked up was also a book I grabbed from one of my school libraries. I was kind of trying to get through all of the books that I had checked out so I could get them back to school, and that was 2 Degrees by Alan Gratz. Now, I have really enjoyed books by Alan Gratz before. Refugee is a book that I think most people, if not everyone, should read. And this book kind of followed similar strategies, I guess, that he has used in the past with multiple different points of view, all that based around like environmental disasters. One of the perspectives was a girl that gets stuck in a wildfire. 1 was a perspective of a girl getting stuck in a hurricane, excuse me. And then the third perspective is totally escaping my mind right now. Oh, a boy in Canada and dealing with the abundance of polar bears around because the weather is changing so significantly. So, excuse me, still trying to get over that cold. But I really liked each perspective. It was a unique perspective to get. Were there things in here that I didn't quite believe? Yes. And I felt that the point he was trying to make was a little too forced. Not that we shouldn't be talking about climate change, because I think that's very important. It just felt a little too forced for me, and a little too much. But it's also a book that isn't written necessarily for my age group, so I have to take that with a grain of salt. Initially I rated it a 4. Now that I'm kind of starting to think about it, I would maybe go 3, 3.5, just because looking back, I'm like, it was okay. With still taking that grain of salt of this is not a book that was necessarily written for me. After that, I picked up a book that I heard Audrey at Chapter and Converse talk about, and that was The Resemblance by Lauren Nassett. This is heavily police procedural, and the main character in here is a detective, and she witnesses, or basically hears, an accident happen, in which case a driver basically does a hit and run and kills this very well-known fraternity member on campus. And I think this, if I remember correctly, it's the University of Georgia campus. And it kind of spirals into this whole piece of, she is looking into who killed this person, because people that had witnessed it said it looked like the guy himself that was driving, he hit himself, who was walking across the sidewalk. And she starts to look into things that are happening in this fraternity, and it goes from there. There's a lot of kind of twists and turns that happen. There were parts that I struggled to believe, and I actually talked to Audrey about this book, and the thing that I struggled with, actually, I don't even want to say, because I don't want to spoil what happens in this book, but there were just certain things I struggled with. But I did like it. I'm not normally, I love mystery thrillers, but police procedural is kind of one of those that I hit or miss with. But this one I did like, and I gave it a 4. And I was really, really happy that I had Audrey to talk to as I was reading through it. The one that I picked up after that is another one that Amanda at the Curly Reader suggested. Clearly this was my month to read things that Amanda talked about. And that was Free Lunch by Rex Ogle. I know I said it wrong. I actually listened to the audiobook of this one too. Like I said, I have been on an audiobook kick, and it's just what's doing it for me right now. This is actually nonfiction of his life growing up, being part of the free lunch program. And it was just such an interesting look into, not only do we see what kids are going through at school, and probably a little bit of the embarrassment that would happen when you have to like tell the lunch ladies that you're part of the free lunch program, plus also what's happening at home and in the background, the things that we don't see. So as somebody that works in education, it was a really interesting read for me, because you don't always think about what's going on in the background. I am happy to say that we don't have the same process anymore, at least in the district that I work in, that you don't actually have to say out loud that you're part of this program, and they're not checking your name off in a binder. We have the kids put in their numbers, and it's just kind of all done electronically, which I am sure is much more common now. But it was a very, very powerful read to get that from his perspective. Was I blown away by anything? No, but I did enjoy it, so I gave it a 4. After that, I picked up one that was actually an early release for Book of the Month, and I also had the audiobook arc, from NetGalley. And that is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This one was interesting. The tagline in here is, they were 11 when they sent a killer to prison. They were heroes, but they were liars. And so this woman comes back. I'm trying to think here. The woman that is the main character in the story was actually attacked in these woods. And so her and her friends that kind of have witnessed this put this killer away in prison because they apparently recognized him. And she was pretty severely attacked. It kind of scarred her face pretty significantly. And they weren't always sure. And so they kind of kept that secret, and now they're grown. She's coming back to town, and yes. You know what? My brain is going. I'm like, I read this one so fast, and now I can't remember exactly. Like, I can remember the outcome of this story, but I can't remember why she came back to town. And this is just not refreshing my memory, but that happens. And like I have in the past, I always want to be honest, and sometimes I just don't remember what goes on. And I can remember the ending. I really can, but some of the middle details are just escaping me, so I apologize. I did end up giving this one a 4, because I did enjoy it while I was reading it, but gosh, some of those middle details are just escaping me. My apologies. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, now the next book, I cannot forget the details of this book, and I think this one will stick with me for quite a while. I actually considered filming a separate video on this one and just was not like mentally ready for it. And before, let me tell you what the book is first, and that is My Dark Vanessa. This is by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I knew going into this book that this was going to be a difficult one. And dare I say I was even surprised at how difficult this truly was. The whole premise behind this story is a girl who is at a boarding school, it's a high school boarding school, ends up having a relationship with one of her teachers, and this teacher is in his 40s. So right off the bat, I knew that this was going to be a really hard story going into, especially as someone with a teaching background that still works in education. Throughout the story, we continue where you're getting 2 timelines. You're getting her high school timeline and you're getting her current timeline. And in the current timeline, she still has connections with this teacher, and he has been basically accused of touching other girls or having, you know, physical contact with other women. And since she still has connections with him, she has kind of always been on his side, even though she knows what he did in the past. And I just, throughout this whole book, and the audiobook was fantastic because you really get the struggle that she goes through with debating whether or not she really wants this attention, and ooh, maybe she's not comfortable with that, but then yes, I do really want this. This is what I want. And you see that struggle in her mind. And even as an adult, you see her grapple with whether the fact that she's going to connect with these girls that are accusing him, or if she's still going to stay on his side. So this one kind of throws you for a wild ride. And then the things that even after she leaves that boarding school, how it continues to affect her and the choices that she makes. So this book is not going to be for everyone. I struggled with rating it because the content is so hard to deal with and connect to, but the writing and the audiobook were extremely well done. So I think I ended up giving it a 4. And like I said, I struggle with that rating because I'm not necessarily rating the content of the book, but the way that it's written. So definitely not a book for everyone, but dare I say it was good. It's the best way I can probably put that one. After picking that one up, I decided to stay on the dark side, and once again, I had a few books checked out for my school library, and I read the book Asylum, and of course I did not write down the author. And this was middle grade YA horror, I guess, about some students that got to go to a summer school program on a college campus. They are like incoming high school seniors the summer before their senior year, and they can kind of take a variety of classes that are available to them. And the dorm is this former asylum and weird things start to happen to our main character. It was interesting. I'm glad I had the physical copy of the book because it includes actual, what I'm assuming are real life pictures of things that would have happened in asylums in the past. And I actually found out at our library the other day, it is a trilogy plus a prequel. So I haven't decided whether or not I will pick any of those ones up because I know it continues on with our 3 characters that they kind of talk about, but it was just okay for me. I gave it a 3. But once again, it is not a book that is necessarily written for my age range, and there were some creepy things in there, so I have to give it that. After those 2 books, I decided I need something a little bit lighter, a little bit less nerve-wracking. So I picked up Christina Lauren's Something Wilder, and this has been sitting on my shelves forever. This is, and actually this along with My Dark Vanessa are 2 of the books off of my 23 in 23 or 23 in 2023 that I want to read. And this one was different. Like I didn't know what to expect because Christina Lauren is kind of known for their like romance books. And this one kind of sends you on a wild adventure. These 2 people had been dating previously when the guy worked on the girl's father's ranch, and I believe this is in Utah. And he ends up getting called home, his mother's dying, and they haven't talked to each other since. She is running kind of like a treasure hunting excursion now in Utah, and he and his friends end up coming out, and they go on this adventure to find this treasure that they've decided. So they're kind of straying from what their original path was, and they're going to go on this adventure. A lot of things happen in this book. It's kind of crazy, but I really quite enjoyed it. I think if I remember right, there's some mixed reviews on this one, but I really liked it. I liked some of the wild and crazy things that happened. I know in the beginning of the book, and I believe both of the authors talk about how they kind of took some liberties with where they were and where they were exploring. So don't expect to go to, I think it's Moab, Utah, in the Canyonlands National Park. Like, don't expect it to be exactly how they were talking about it, but I quite enjoyed it, and I'm curious. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I would want to adventure in there. So slightly predictable in some other aspects, but I gave that one a 4. It was a great palate cleanser. So currently, because like I said, it is not quite the end of January yet. Currently, I'm probably about 50% of the way through listening to Creep by Jennifer Hillier, which, once again, in common theme, that one was recommended to me by Audrey at Chapter and Converse, and I am really enjoying it so far. I keep going like, wait, what? Huh? Like, I did not read much of a synopsis going into this book. I know I had heard Audrey talk about it before, but I didn't know what to expect because I could not remember exactly what it was about. I just knew it was on my list. And it is, once again, another of my 23 books to read in 2023. And I'm really, really enjoying it so far. I'll be sure to put my rating in the description box below once I have finished it, but I know I'll be finishing that before the end of January. So that'll be another book that will be on my January wrap up. So I wanted to include it here. And because technically I still have the rest of today and then 3 more days in January, I know I'll have time to probably get in one more book. And once again, I am trying to get through some of the books that I checked out in the library. So I have this one, which has been a very popular book with some of my friends here on YouTube, and that is All 13, The Incredible Cave Rescue of the Thai Boys Soccer Team. All of my friends have been talking about this one like crazy, and I found out that my library had it, so I stole it off the shelves so that I could read it, and I think I'll be getting through this one fairly quickly. I'm really looking forward to it. There's some amazing pictures in here. It's almost set up in like a textbook style, so yeah, I'm like really looking forward. Sorry, my lights are washing that out. To kind of jumping in, because I remember hearing about this one on the news, but I don't exactly remember kind of what all happened. And like I said, I know all of my friends have raved about this one, so I am looking forward to picking this one up before the end of the month, and I will be sure to put my ratings below. So those are all of the books that I picked up in the month of January. Overall, I will consider this a great reading month, even though I only had 1 5-star so far. I can't guarantee what Creep will be, but regardless, it was a good reading month. What have you been reading in the month of January? Is there anything that I should add to my list? Feel free to leave it in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.